Radio.net. It's the station.
What's up, everybody, man? How y'all feeling today out there in Facebook land, YouTube land, man? Make sure you go and subscribe to us right now on YouTube, CMP Radio. Make sure you like us on Facebook, like, share, and let's get into this conversation. So today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with the city's receiver, and he got some information, and he wants everybody to understand how dire this information is, right? How important this information is. Now, listen. When we had this conversation, I want everybody to understand, and I'm not pointing the finger at nobody. Everybody knows how I feel about the situation. This is what it was set up this way, right? It wasn't set up by us. It was set up by whoever was in charge before. Sorry about that, right? Before. So I want everybody to understand, right, how important it is not to point fingers, but to come from solutions. Let's try to find the best way out of this, so we can find the best way through this, so we can do what's best for our children. But today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with the city's receiver, Mr. Michael Doweary. How you feeling, sir?
Doing well, and yourself?
Oh, I'm good. I'm doing a whole lot better now. You feel me? Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem, man. When you hit me up and ask me, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, no problem. You know, let's have this conversation because it's important. You feel me? That the people of the city understand exactly what they're dealing with. You know what I mean? And what they're facing. You know, we have, let's just knock everything off, right? Check by check. Let's start with the parking authority. Okay. Right? The parking authority was brought here to, I guess, uphold the meters in different areas. We try to put meters in Upland, not Upland, Widener. Try to put meters in Widener, city parking. I understand by Crozier, in Sun Hill with Widener, there are residents that live there, and the people just pull up and park. So I understand that, right? But the meters going in, it was too much money. You feel me? For me to afford, right? What happened with that, and why did that go down the way it did?
Yeah, unfortunately, the contract that was in place wasn't procured properly. They didn't follow the proper steps that are required for a third-class city. Every city needs a parking plan. There's going to be challenges throughout, whether it be in a residential or the business district. There's going to be a need to cultivate a plan. I think the first misstep for the city was not developing a plan first and then executing a parking strategy that supported the plan. So this next time around, we are really looking forward to that public engagement, understanding what each neighborhood or pocket of the city really needs, right, and crafting a customized plan. So parking enforcement, I'll say, isn't going away. We're going through a transition now. We'll have to work through that. But there will be a public bid process that's fully transparent. A third party will be brought in again, most likely, to help out. But the first step is completing that study and really understanding what are the needs of the city, and then going through the procurement steps properly.
Right. So, because everybody keep asking me, I can park here and not put money in the meter?
Currently, yes.
Currently, right now. So let everybody know you can park in the city of Chester and not put any money in the meter. But listen, and I didn't have a problem with the meters coming. I felt as though that was something that's needed, right? You want to make money however you can make money. And with the business district down here, people coming and hopping on SEPTA and parking their cars and not having to pay anything, that's money for the city, right? That can help the city. So why not have meters? But what was it, like $2 for 20 minutes. I don't know how much it was. It was a lot of money for a very little bit of time. So it didn't really work for us. You know what I mean? And in the business district, they were upset. You know what I mean? So moving there, it now shows what can happen if we find out why something happened, how it happened, and how we can get rid of it, right? Because you had to take that all the way to court, right?
We did. Currently, the appeal is before the state Supreme Court, but at the Commonwealth Court level, it was declared that the contract was procured illegally, and we needed to start over.
So no criminal charges can be filed against anybody for going into a contract illegally?
I'll say that's not what I do.
Okay.
We try to right the ship and keep moving
Right,
forward.
absolutely. Okay, cool. Next thing we're talking about is the Water Authority and bankruptcy, right? I want you to go as deep as you can with that, because that's important, right? Because the city hasn't been making money for much longer than 8 years, right? We can go back probably, I don't know how far. You got the paperwork over there, right? You can go back as far as you can, but explain that to me. Yeah,
and you acknowledged something in your opening, and I want to go back to that. And as we talk about the water, this is a place where we disagree. So something you said in the opening, I did ask to be here. So I want to make that distinction that that CMP is not digging for dirt or call it stirring up any trouble.
No, I'm not.
But it's me coming out and asking for the platform and the opportunity to speak. With bankruptcy, monetization, scary words. And our disagreement, kind of our conversation started before we went on camera, and talking about potential monetization. Selling the authority, selling the water authority is a scary proposition. Unfortunately, I have to say that the city's finances are so bad or so dire that monetizing the system is really the only option. It's only part of the solution, but it has to be a part of the equation. The debt that is over the city now, the pension liabilities, the healthcare liabilities, the annual operations, and just the inability to pay for annual operations, it's a hill that's insurmountable at this point. So selling the system is part of it, but then the B word comes in because that restructuring will most likely need to be a component of it as well. Right. So I'll dig a little deeper into all of that, but I'll say right now, if you look at monetization as half of the equation, then the other half being the restructuring. So let's start with monetization, then we'll jump into the second half. The Commonwealth Court already ruled that CWA is Chester's asset. So we'll see if the state Supreme Court issues a different ruling. They did agree to hear the appeal, but it is Chester's asset. So getting past the control question, we get to as I said, monetization being a necessity, but I want to separate monetization from privatization. Okay. The authority could remain in public hands and continue to operate as a nonprofit organization, but still go through a restructuring, if you will, where Chester no longer controls and solely owns the asset, but the region buys in and takes over the asset. Okay. So instead of being just solely the cities, it becomes Delaware, combination of Delaware and Chester County and Lancaster portion there. So a regional authority could be created, doesn't have the same pressures to deliver a profit, so it's an easier, less of a burden on rates. But it still creates the opportunity for Chester basically to pull out the equity that it needs to refi and take care of things in the household.
What would it take for that to happen? So Chester County, Delaware County, and a little bit of Lancaster, have to come together and say, listen, we'll buy Chester Water Authority, but keep it for us.
Essentially, nothing different than what has happened as far as steps or sequence, but the numbers would have to change. In addition to receiving bids from 2 private bidders, CWA also submitted a bid as well. for themselves.
Okay.
So that's essentially the concept there. It's just that the number that was offered in the bid is
Too low.
too low, just not enough for what Chester needs. So that could still be figured out, and it could potentially come in under where the private bidders are.
So what you're saying is Chester Water Authority actually, truly, and it's been said in court, belongs to Chester.
Absolutely.
Just to Chester.
Yes.
To no one else.
Correct.
CWA or Chester County or Lancaster come in and say, all right, we'll buy this from you for how much money is enough money to say it's a good deal?
And then we got to get to the second part
Right, the
of
bank
what
rates.
has to happen
Right.
in order to be able to answer that question.
All right.
And I would direct viewers, listeners to Allentown and the regional authority that was created around Allentown. The same exact thing happened, where Allentown monetized its water system, but it was sold, if you will, to a regional authority that was created to basically take over the asset.
Wow.
So it's happened here in the Commonwealth, and it's not an uncommon thing. To the how much money is needed, we got to get to the second part of the equation, right? And the second part being, what are the expenses of the city?
Okay.
It's easy to put out the liability numbers and say, we know we owe at least $150 million to the pension plan. We know there's debt on the water system. We know that there's a lack of capital investment in the city. So those are big hit numbers that add up pretty quickly.
Right.
But the harder part of the equation is the ongoing operation. Right now, Chester loses on average between $12 to $15 million a year.
Say that again. Chester loses how much?
On average, between $12 to $15 million a year.
Can we go back and can you let me know when that started?
I can let you know when it jumped up to double digits, and that was 2014.
Okay.
But even before then, I mean, part of the reason why Chester is distressed in financial oversight since the mid-1990s, the equation's been off for quite some time.
Okay.
But pensions and healthcare continue to go up.
Right.
So it's making the gap wider and wider. So now you get to the restructuring that's needed. So I can't say what's going to come out of those negotiations. We've offered terms to the existing unions. We've offered terms to the existing creditors. The only group we haven't met yet, we'll be meeting with them next week, are the retirees, to put out to the retirees what we would need them to agree to. Those terms they're not easy terms to accept or to swallow. So, but until that side of the equation can be solved, we can't say this is how much money we need from selling assets.
So we don't know the number.
Not yet. Not yet. Good faith those negotiations are ongoing.
Right. And that's, I guess that's where you are when you talk about planning, right? Making sure there's enough money. We have to plan for this, right? We can't just go in and say, all right, sell it for $50 million and it's $300 million in the hole. So that $50 million really did nothing for us. You know what I mean? Wow.
So just quick math, when we could work off of, I don't know how much, we can get into numbers.
Right.
The private bids were north of $400 million.
Okay.
The first thing out of that $400 million is you have to pay off the debt of the system.
Right.
The system they've taken out, the CWA has debt. So that's over $100 million right there.
Right.
So you're down, let's just say 300.
300 million.
Pension debt, another 150. So you're down to 150 million left out of that 400. It sounds good. It sounds like $500 million, but you're already down to 150 million. Then you start to take on or address some of the lack of investment in capital. So let's just say another 20 million goes to paving roads, opening up bridges that have been out forever.
Right.
Well, not even. Let's leave it at 150.
Right.
If you leave it at 150, and Chester has been losing, like I said, over $12 million each year since 2014, And then you have the projections that say it's going to be about $15 million a year for the next 5 years. Well, it's not going to magically close after year 5. So let's just use the number 15.
Right.
Within 10 years, $150 million is gone.
Right.
That's 10 years. That's not at an 8% rate of inflation for expenses where the country is currently trending.
Absolutely.
So even if you could invest that money, it's not going to be enough to curb the inflation on the other side. Furthermore, you can't invest that money into a risky portfolio, large cap even, or mutual fund, because you got to ensure that that money is there. A fixed rate of return, a guaranteed rate of return, on a 10-year treasury, you're at less than 4%. And you can't lock this money up for the next 10 years because you need it. So the rate of return is going to be a money market, 2 or 3%, nowhere near the pace of inflation. If you sold the system today and did not do any restructuring, Chester would be broke again within the next 10 years.
Within 10
guaranteed.
years. Wow. So it was a waste of a sale.
Look to Coatesville. You don't have to look far to see where it doesn't work if you only do one side of the equation.
Since Chester owns CWA, does CWA pay Chester anything?
The fact that they're a nonprofit, so state statute,
Right.
Municipal Authorities Act. There was a time when municipalities basically milked rates and used this authority concept to bring money back into the general fund. Some time ago, the state passed a law that municipal authorities can't do that.
Couldn't do
so
that.
if you're going to be a nonprofit, the money you raise has to just pay for your operation.
Right.
It can't go to pay for other activities.
Wow.
So there was a time when CWA contributed, I've heard numbers as high as $5 million a year back to the city's general fund. By law, they can't do that. No authority can do that.
Wow. That's crazy. $400 million really don't mean anything to a city that's in debt. Now, how deep is the debt that the city's in?
Collectively, I mean, you go with pensions, you're at 150. Retiree projections are, I want to say 250, 280. We talked about the lack of capital investment. Easily $50 million could be spent on capital, and then there's still the need to spend at least $2 million a year to maintain that number, maintain those investments. And then there's just the structural deficit of not being able to keep up with the 10 to 15. So, yeah, the balance sheet's not that good.
So,
And then I didn't add on the market debt.
why you come here, bro? You bring me this, man. Like this is heavy because
we got to talk about
we
it.
definitely need to talk about it. I need more people. I need y'all to share this. I need you to get it out there to your friends. Listen, it'll always be on cmpradio.net, right? And this is hard, right? Because I'm thinking there's not that much money, and we sell the water authority, or maybe the water authority begins to pay us, but the water authority can't pay us. It's a law against that. So capital investment, right? How do we find people to come into the city and invest into our city, right? We got the waterfront. I think it's a beautiful space. You feel me? Like the soccer stadium's down there. Harris has the other side, right? In between is a whole bunch of, I'm not going to say polluters, but that's what Miss Mayfield would say. In between is a whole bunch of people throwing things in the river, right? That aren't good for us and putting things in our air. But how can we, lift that up to a point where people want to come through? And I know there's some things being talked about right now, right? But how can we do that? Like, what does it look like?
Economic development, community development has to be a part of the strategy.
Okay.
That is the long-term solution. Unfortunately, it's a long play.
Right.
Private development, you don't really have a control of that.
Right.
From a city administration, from a city government side, you want to be open and inviting and make it easy for folks to do business here. So
Right.
that I can navigate City Hall and the permitting and codes process really. You want that to be the experience, but it still takes somebody with the pockets and the interest and the desire.
Right.
And then the development, the construction, and then to start to see the receipts off.
We don't want to sell it for cheap. We don't want to sell the land for cheap, because I think that was a lot of what was going on, before, right? Just get rid of the land, just put them in there. I think it said there was some toxic waste down there, and somebody had to remove that, right? So give them the land for $10, but that land is valuable to us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and I'm not advocating giving any acreage waterfront property away for $10.
Right.
At the same time, I do support incentives, if you will, to encourage that development.
Right.
So there's a happy medium there somewhere, but the reason why parcels are offered for $1, pennies on the dollar, is that there's that belief that there's going to be the long-term payoff, right? So I don't need X up front because I know I got Y on the back end.
Okay.
And that's what makes economic and community development the long play. Chester has to grow its own tax base. It has to. That's what closes that gap on a long term by real estate taxes, et cetera, earned income taxes feeding into the coffers and being able to support.
So isn't that kind of like the long play you were just talking about? Like if they fix the houses up and sell the houses to people in it, they become taxpayers.
And it's appropriate. The challenge of where we are today had that, well, I shouldn't even say had that. I won't say that it's not happening.
Okay.
But it's not going to solve the 2023 budget we need to pass by December 31st of this year. So it's just a balance between the two where we need to invest in that long-term strategy, but it's not going to solve the immediate crisis we have here before us.
So those things go hand in hand. Sign the water authority, giving you 10 years, you feel me, to work that out. In those 10 years, we fix up some houses, sell some houses, get some people moved in here, right? And then the money starts popping up. It's possible. It sounds good.
The two have to come together.
Right.
They have to happen on parallel tracks. I agree with everything you said there.
Right.
My only caution or concern is
10 years.
And anticipating that to play out.
Right.
Because what if the development doesn't happen? What if it takes another 10? What if, so you still got to address the restructuring part, because the hope of economic development can't be the plan that we put in place today.
Right. Oh, man, money. I said this the other day. Money is the root of all evil. It will turn your best friend into your best enemy. It'll turn your worst friend into your worst enemy. But when we don't understand how to handle finances, things happen. There was something said in a meeting, a city hall meeting, about $400,000 being misappropriated. Right? How did that happen? On top of everything that we're dealing with, we're still what happened there?
Yeah, unfortunately, it sounds like an employee or someone in the city administration fell victim to a phishing scam.
Oh, sure.
That in and by itself is not uncommon, but it's still disheartening, and just compounds the issue, if you will.
Right.
At this point, where we are 4 months plus removed, almost 5 months removed from the incident, it's going to be very hard to recoup any of that.
So you have a bank that insures your money. So how did this phishing scam? I think I heard Will say it was an email sent. It was the wrong situation. And if you don't know, you can tune in to yesterday's show, Cool Ass Conversations with Will, where he explained what happened. But like how can the bank not insure the money, right? Or how can the cops not get the money back?
Well, the cops. Well, we'll talk to the bank first in insuring the money. The banks insure
the money
what you
that
have
have
deposited,
okay,
and that whatever they're holding in custody will remain okay. Someone initiating a wire or a transaction pulling money out, you initiated it and you cleared whatever safety protocols on your bank's end to pull the money. Now, where you send it,
that's on you.
That becomes on you. But the login, whatever credentials needed to initiate the wire, that security didn't fail. To the second part of it, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
I don't know. I didn't forgot. And the police, like
their ability to so with these type of electronic crimes, that money probably passed through 20 accounts in 20 days, and here we are 5 months later.
Right.
So to get back to the original perpetrators, et cetera, hopefully they're able to do something, but As we saw with, I think I saw the comment on the school district's example that they were able to recoup 70% of it, but it was because they acted that day. They didn't wait till that Monday.
So why did they wait so long?
I'm not the one to ask that question.
All right. I asked Will yesterday, and he said they were investigating, right? And I said, okay, well, why didn't you tell anybody? You know, that's what the people want to know. Why didn't they know that almost $500,000 just went out the door, and you didn't know who you were sending it to or where it was going? On top of that, I hear there's fines from the IRS as well.
Yeah, significant. There's still $750,000 in penalties, potential penalties. No, they've been assessed. They've just been held in abatement right now. There's $750,000 in penalties out there standing with the IRS currently. How much in total has been assessed to the city? We don't have a handle on that. Significant payments, six-figure payments were going to the IRS to try to pay off penalties in the past. So in excess of $1 million for improperly reporting payroll. So yeah, all these things. Mismanagement just adds to the challenge, right? So
the insurance that the city has that can't reimburse the money?
the city did not, well, for...
Hold on. Because the train was riding past. The city didn't what?
Your question was about...
The insurance that the city has that can't reimburse the money?
Well, twofold. No, there isn't going to be an insurance reimbursement, number one. Number two, the city does not have cyber coverage. Found out that policy was no longer in place. Number three, still questionable whether or not cyber coverage, if it were in place, would have even been applicable.
I thought cyber coverage covers everything that happens on the computer. They made me get it for my job. I got it, but
right. But it's if something happens, like someone
hacks into you,
and yeah, you have a loss of data.
Right.
Cyber coverage kicks in to restore you.
Right.
Cyber coverage really isn't applicable to a willful act. You know, you went in and initiated that, and you know, so that wasn't. It was a bad email, but there still should be the internal controls in place where you don't just wire that kind of money and not do verifications before you initiate the transfer.
With the city handling so much money, right? And the city being a city, you would think insurances or things would be in place just in case things. If they're fishing old women, they're fishing old men, they're fishing young people. People are getting fished every day, taking money, right? Nigerian princes and all types of stuff. Why wouldn't cyber insurance protect the city, a big conglomerate like this, you feel me, to make sure if they do make a mistake, if by any chance somebody doesn't see the right email and they send it off, because what he said was at the end of an email, it was .net and then one was .net USA. You feel me? And it was like the person didn't see it. You know what I mean? And they sent the money out. So it's like, and how many steps do they go through before they send the money out? How does that work?
That's more of the focus. Again, the insurance coverage is questionable whether or not it would have even been applicable. But the internal controls of verifying, you receive the communication, but do you make contact with the vendor to make sure that it actually is from them? Do you verify the bank information? Does it match the last wire? Do you reconcile the invoices to make sure that this amount is in line with what you expect to pay that vendor this year? Is the invoice on cycle, et cetera? And then there's, to initiate the wire itself, 2 or 3 parties inside working on that, and where Councilman Morgan is, instead of initiating the wire, he's at a level where he should be approving. So there's the checks and balances to it, the internal controls to make sure that to limit the opportunity for things like this to slip through the cracks.
So it's not, that's my stroke. He's approving. So did someone send it out before it got to him to approve, or he's saying he sent it out?
In this instance, it sounds like he received the email, he initiated the wire.
Wow. So who approves over him? Nobody?
Council's at the top.
So before they send out a check for $400,000, everybody at council don't agree that this is the right situation? Why not?
No, the 4 council
For
members and the
financial.
mayor don't come together on each transaction that way. The check register, and we found out that the wires were not being approved at the council level, but council should be an approver,
Of everything.
not necessarily approver, more of a verifier.
Of everything.
Because business is happening on a daily,
Absolutely.
so to bring the electeds in to work on that level of control each day is a little much for the council level. It should be someone in accounts payable who's setting that up,
Right.
and then you're going through several levels of management, culminating with the CFO,
Right.
to really handle that level of administrative work.
So we don't do that?
No, that wasn't being done.
This is crazy. And listen, man, I love Will. I love what he's able to speak on, man. I just need him to do a better job, man. So, accountability is real, right? And I don't run from it, and I don't want anybody else to run from it. So, we're not gonna tear him down, but we're gonna let him know what has to improve from here on out. This city and the things that it's dealing with, is hard, right? Because we have the crime, we have the lack of resources for our children to do things, and then we have this city, this bankruptcy that everybody keeps talking about, right? I was in a meeting, and literally, like I said, I never had a problem with Thaddeus saying he wanted to sell the Water Authority. If we can sell the Water Authority, then do that if it worked. But let's worry about the rates for the people that live in the city of Chester. Now you giving me a new idea, right, where Delaware County, Chester County, and some of Lancaster can buy the Water Authority from us. We get the money we need, and then possibly have 10 years of $150 million that we're good and we're not losing. Because if we're losing $30 million a year, that's the opposite. You know what I mean? It doesn't work for us. It's not helping anybody. Everybody's suffering. And at the end of the day, who's winning?
I'd like to challenge it a step further, is cutting that 15 down to a 5.
Right.
A gap of $5 million a year. And now it's not lasting just 10 years. We're out 30 and beyond.
Right.
And there is more of the opportunity to invest the difference and carry it a little further.
So what would we have to do to be able to cut it down to 5 from 15?
It's restructuring. It's those
Everything.
creditors agreeing to new terms.
Right.
I can't get into the specifics of what was offered to each creditor, but each creditor will have to come to terms with a new normal.
Wow.
So,
and who's helping you with that? That's your team. That's what you're here for, right? To ask, to bring plans and put plans in place that help us move forward.
so that this can come to an end.
Right.
I'm not the consultants that have been here since '95, and no, I've been here 2 years now, 2 years plus. We've assessed it, analyzed it every which way possible. We've reached our conclusions now and are now putting forth every aspect of that plan, and we'll see where this goes. But the urgency is what I want to get across. The timing of me coming to you now is because we're here.
Right.
This budget deficit for 2023, if it weren't for ARPA, we would be having this conversation back in 2020.
So let's talk about ARPA. What is ARPA?
Federal rescue, American Rescue Plan dollars, but it's basically a response from the federal government to the pandemic, offering assistance to municipalities.
Now, how much money did the city get overall? Like
$30.3 million.
$30.3 million. How much money is being offered to the citizens?
To the
Like,
all of
not-
it is.
you know what I mean? Like for businesses or smaller businesses to grow and different things like that.
Yeah, I don't have all those figures here with me. I'll say that rough numbers. I think $2 million set aside for homeowner assistance.
Okay.
Facade improvements and also some other major repairs to the home.
Yeah, Will was talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, small business assistance. I don't want to misspeak, but I want to say another $2 million or so set aside for that. Quite a bit flowing through to park improvements, but there's a significant portion that's also just going to solve this gap that we've been talking about. That ARPA has been plugging that gap to keep the doors open for the last 2 years. So, significant portion of it will be used just to keep the doors open through 2024.
Sound like 27 million is going.
That's about that revenue replacement figure is about 17. So 17 plus the numbers we just talked about there. But a draft budget is out there and that information, but spreading it around as much as can be.
I feel like there are so many situations going on, right, where everybody is constantly pointing. I want your solution for fixing Chester for the next 30 years, right? How do you see this happening? And then tell me, when you put this plan in place, how many people are really going to be game with it, right?
Yeah, and again, like I said, we're negotiating with larger creditors, so we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. But our plan is on our website and was shared publicly at the September 13th MFRAC meeting, the Municipal Financial Recovery Advisory Committee. So we put out there the general terms of what needs to happen for this plan to come together, and that PowerPoint is available online.
You can go online. Tell them where they can find it at.
ChesterReceivership.com.
ChesterReceivership.com. You can go online and see the plan, understand the plan, read through the plan. It's important, right? Are you getting any flack for this plan? Are people upset over this plan, or are they willing to say that this needs to happen? There are people that can disagree with things, but you understand the only way Chester moves forward is to have a good plan. And if no one else has a plan, then this is the only plan that we have. Then we got to go with it.
I'd be lying to you to say that creditors are receiving the terms we're offering and then just everybody's just
right. Are you crazy?
So I haven't been directly. Well, I have been.
Right. We both have been.
It's going. It's a challenge, and
it is.
I'll say that B word is out there because the likelihood of us to be able to reach those terms in a timely manner to solve this by the end of the year is just.
And it has to be solved by the end of the year, before the new financial year comes up.
Yeah, the budget deficit for next year is almost $47 million.
$47 million in the red.
Yeah, that's $7.5 million on general operations, but that's $40 million in pass-through pension payments.
So when you say pass, let's talk about this pension, right? Because I need to understand this. There was a certain way it was written up that allowed people that worked for the police department to retire and make the money that they made. You can't look into the structure and say that was illegal. Like you got to work for the last year, time and a half time, and they took those hours and then gave that to you. And that's stealing, isn't it?
Well, again, from my position, legality isn't what I address. What I address is what does it need to be for Chester to be able to operate moving forward. So were the benefit levels excessive? Were they abused? You could probably check quite a few boxes on quite a few retirees. Across the board, it's a benefit that the city could not afford. So it was writing a check that it eventually was going to catch up.
Who signed that into law? Like, it was cool to say, all right, you can work time and a half, double time, overtime, and get paid that in your pension.
Well, let's go a step back.
Yeah, let's go.
There was a time in America where that was the common thing. Defined benefit pensions were it across private and public sectors. In the 70s, 80s, the private sector realized we can't sustain this. So then that's when the 401ks and all that, those concepts were developed in the 80s. So it's not, you can't just look at Chester and say, one day somebody flipped a switch and all of a sudden started giving away benefits that the city couldn't afford. What it is that the city over time didn't taper back the benefits the way that other cities, other companies have.
And why didn't they?
I can't speak to it. I can't answer why someone did what they did, self-dealing or what have you. But I'll say in the 90s, the corrective action started to be taken. That was part of the reason of the city going into Act 47 oversight. The problem was well known and documented, and the city knew what it had to do to start going in the right direction.
Just didn't do it.
And I compared Chester to Reading, where Reading just came out of Act 47, comparable size, comparable demographics, comparable history as an industrial hub and trying to evolve and find itself. But you got to find that new normal, and that's where I get back to that $15 million gap.
Right.
It's not enough to just sell an asset and say, we'll just keep paying it. You really have to restructure to whatever the city really can afford. You may have had a mansion before. Now you can only afford a 5-bedroom, not even an apartment, but it's a traditional row home. It doesn't mean you're homeless,
right.
But it's just
it's not what you're used to having,
right? So or not even to say that. It may still be a single-family detached home. Right. It's just not the Cadillac that it used to be.
Right.
So 90s corrective action started to be taken. Early 2000s, things started to go a little left again. Unfortunately, during the term of Mayor Butler, a pretty significant MOU was signed that enhanced the benefits, that took things in the wrong direction.
What's the MOU?
It's a memorandum of understanding.
So the memorandum of understanding was signed by the ex-police chief commissioner.
At the time, he was the mayor.
But he was a cop.
It enhanced the pension benefit and took things in the wrong direction. So as we sit here now, part of that negotiations that I'm saying that whether we like it or not, I can't say it's illegal because it was a signed agreement. What was improper, not illegal, but improper, is we've corrected some of the calculations that were just done improperly. Instead of using just the last year, use the last 3 years, but it's still overtime and all that's still in the equation. So our goal now is we have to reduce it further because it's just too far gone at this point.
What are the examples that show the effects on municipalities that goes into bankruptcy, right? What are the examples? And just show it to us so we can look it up ourselves so we understand what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
You mentioned Reading, right? So how did they come out of their situation?
Well, Reading never went as far as bankruptcy.
Okay.
While they were in Act 47, I'll say one of the biggest things they did was
work together and they turned over staff and the electeds, and that new regime, if you will, worked together to right the ship. So
you can't solve anything by not working together, like literally.
And you can't solve it if you don't acknowledge
where it went wrong.
It might not be your fault, right? But it's happening under you, so I need you to keep it moving.
And that is an acknowledgement as well. But I didn't mean so much looking backwards. I'm saying acknowledging of where this ship is headed.
Right.
And unless we do X, Y, and Z,
we're going to hit the iceberg.
So, let's take the corrective actions now. And the longer we wait, the more drastic they have to be in order to right the ship. So, Reading never did go into bankruptcy. The largest example would be Detroit.
Okay.
Detroit is now on the other side of it, and it's going in the right direction. I'm not from Detroit, and I wouldn't start speaking about every neighborhood, and like some neighborhoods probably are still waiting on that reform, if you will,
absolutely,
or that reinvestment. Some other neighborhoods, the G word, and being gentrified, et cetera. So I don't mean to say that it's all well and good in Detroit, but as far as the fiscal outlook for the city itself, the city is much healthier, financially stable than what it was. In that situation, retirees took a hit to their health care. I don't think their pensions were adjusted in the end, but the unions took a significant hit. Unlike Chester, Detroit had a lot of market debt, a lot of Wall Street debt. So those creditors really had to take a haircut and be a part of the reform.
Right.
Here in Chester, it's not a lot of Wall Street debt, it's the retirees. So the makeup, the composition of it is different. So the solution here isn't going to be quite the same.
So we can't get the retirees to take a haircut? They can't get a shave or come in and say, you know what, I don't need 100,000, I'll take 50. You feel me?
What retiree is just going to say that? But like I said, we'll be meeting with that group. That's the only body. That's the only credit. That's the only body we haven't met with as creditors. So to offer them what the terms are.
Right.
We've hosted public meetings to talk about the situation and where we are. But now next week we'll be meeting with them Wednesday evening to basically present the terms of this is what that haircut needs to look like in order for
we get a
the city
sneak
to
peek?
operate.
Can we get a sneak peek?
That's September 13th.
Is it
release. And it is Chief of Staff B.J. Kapoor does provide a summary of everything narrated, but it would be wrong of me to describe it as a haircut. It's pretty significant.
It's pretty significant. You said it'd be wrong for you to describe it as a haircut?
Yeah, that was.
Oh, you talking about an amputation?
Yeah, this isn't. This won't be a mani-pedi. This will be,
I gotta take your fingers. Wow, man. Like, I don't know, man. It's just to me, it just reeks of a system that was meant to fail. You feel me? Like it was set up this way only for it to fail later on, right? Not on our watch. Like, if we're here and we're in charge of this, we'll keep everything going, right? Money will come in. But as soon as we're done, everything that's with us goes, and then they will fail.
yeah. So there's. We use a word of systemic,
Right.
and whether we're dealing with the environmental justice concerns, systemic racism, I won't disagree with anything you just said.
Right.
In accounting, we use the word of structural, and it has somewhat of the same implication, but it's saying that there's a structural deficit here. Something is inherently wrong in the structure. So just, changing the drywall or a new coat of paint is not, you got to fix the structure.
Right.
And I think that's the issues that you're speaking of. With that said, Chester isn't the only industrial hub to have to go through this evolution, if you will.
Absolutely.
To find that new normal. So while I'll say the deck is stacked, I'll also say I have every bit of confidence in our people to be able to figure it out and right the ship.
Side. Absolutely. I think it's like you said, right? It's not hard if we work together. And I'm always preaching unity. Unity makes strength. You feel me? We're not blaming anyone. I want everybody to understand I'm not blaming anyone for where the city is right now. I'm saying there were systems in place that weren't necessarily made sure were running correctly. The receiver has found that the pension plan was set up the way it was set up. You feel me? And people just took advantage of it, right? If I was working somewhere and I knew I could retire at 45, 46 years old and get $100,000 until I died,
39.
I'm going to do it. 39? Hold on, stop.
20 years of service, no matter the age.
20 years of service, no matter the age. So I could have become a cop at 21 and retire when I'm 41.
You could go in the military at 18 and then become a cop when you're 22, buy back that military time, and retire when you're 38, 39. 38, 39, and in that last year, work all the overtime that you can, make $250,000, and now your pension for the rest of your life is $125,000 plus healthcare.
Healthcare for my whole family?
Yeah, it
just
would be
me?
family coverage, assuming your kids. I mean, most retirees don't have kids on the plan, but it would be a family policy that's offered.
If I'm 41, I might have some more kids.
Grands, right? Yeah.
Or or some more kids. You feel me? Like, I'm 41. I'm retired. At 41, if I can retire at 41,
38, 39.
38, 39, that's young. That's baby. I'm not blaming no police, so please don't pull up on me and beat me up. Like, let me go. Like, but that's not right. You're suffocating a city that it already finds it extremely hard to breathe.
The only thing I challenge is to say that it's not right.
Right.
The next township over may be able to afford that benefit.
Right.
Chester can't.
Chester can't.
So you just got to adjust to what the reality of what it is.
Damn. That's
So
hard.
so to speak to the difference, a cop in Malibu earns whatever their salary is, but it's Malibu.
So that's all cops get to retire in 20 years after 20 years of service.
Chester. Cops hired before 2017.
Oh, before 2017. So any cop hired after 2017
is under a new.
Oh, okay. So what's the new situation?
It's the third class city code of benefits. So I want to say it's 20, it may be 25 years, but it's at least 20. Right. And then I think you got to be age 55.
You got to be age 50. Yeah, to retire. Yeah, why not 65? Right. Be old and get this funds, not young, and you can still have a job and get paid, still work, and
earn another pension.
So earlier I said money is the root of all evil, and Lynn Mayfield and Andrew Nelson corrected me. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil, right? And Andrew said money is a tool. Well, shit. We need a shovel. We need a couple shovels to dig up out of this mess, man, and we really need to come together. So unity makes strength, right? Understand what that means. Us coming together from all walks of life, right? You know, our chefs, our cooks, our cleaners, our cops, our judges, our mayors, our deputy mayors, our trash people coming together to move the city accordingly, right? Until we do that, we won't have anything. We can't have anything because there's no unity there. No one ever wants to help anyone else do anything that benefits that other person. But it benefits all of us. It benefits our children, right? We got a school. We got a receiver over there. I'm going to reach out to him and see if I could talk to him to get where he's moving to and what he's trying to do. Everything in this city can't be failing. It can't. Understand what I'm saying. Everything in this city can't continue to fail us. Because if it continues to fail us, it's our death. Literally. The city will die, the city will crumble, and then people will come in and pick apart. The vultures will come in and pick apart and take the parts that they want and go somewhere else and do something else, or even bring back the city because they have unity. They don't tear each other down. They don't beat each other up. They're not yelling at each other. They're asking for solutions. They're not trying to create more problems. And these are the things that we need to do in this community. I just had to get that out before I choked on that. What else is going on, man? Like,
that's my only focus. We got to balance this equation by the end of the year.
This is hard. This is hard. And again, I'm not blaming Dad. No, I love him, man. I do, man. Literally, everybody. I love everybody. But if we have to fix it, let's fix it. Let's stop blaming each other. Let's stop pointing fingers. Let's just get up and fix it. Literally, man. Like, nothing works unless you work it. And if you're not working it, you're stealing from it. If you're stealing from it, then the community will attack you accordingly. But, you know, I don't want anyone to take this live personal. I don't want anybody to get upset. I'm not blaming anybody. Mr. Doweary's not blaming anybody. He's a solution-based person. He wants to find a solution to help us plan to get out of this mess. That's why he was sent here, right? Governor Wolf personally picked him and said, I want you to go to Chester.
No weight, no pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure somewhere where you're not from, right? Somewhere where you're not, and then you got to put yourself in the middle of all of this, right? And what comes down, the moment you speak out on it, you become the bad guy. You feel me? Oh, we're not agreeing, you're not sharing. Like, I don't get that from you. Like I said, you reached out to me. The first time we ever had a conversation, it was the Chestorians. We were on live, had the conversation, and then I'm cussing and fussing on the joint. That's just how I communicate. And I'm sorry for anybody that doesn't like that I cuss. I apologize. I haven't cursed one time today, have I?
the A word.
I did ask.
Some what do you call the show yesterday?
Yeah.
No, it was the name of the show.
Oh, it was the name of the show. So I didn't curse. Right.
No, you didn't. Okay.
Cool ass conversations with Will, right? But I'm trying to change that, right? I'm trying to be the man that they see me as, right? And not the man that I claim to want to be. But through our conversations, I'm understanding that solutions have to be given, plans have to be made, right? That allow us to move forward. Chester is a great city with tons of great individuals in it doing great things. Entrepreneurs, right? The people that work for people. You don't just have to be an entrepreneur to be great, right? You can have a job and still be great, but let's bring it back. Let's continue to support each other. Let's push each other, right? If you feel like you're down and I call you on the phone and I give you some words of inspiration, accept it as it is, right? If I'm down and you call me and you hype me up, I'm going to accept it as it is. If you see Mr. Doweary in the street, don't yell at him. Don't say, man, you trying to get us to go bankrupt. No. These are the solutions that he has. And he only has the solutions that he can work with. Anything else you want to say before you get up out of here?
I'll just say I wish the math added up differently.
I wish it did too.
But yeah, I'm here to help, and Chester has shown me love. It's a rough process, if you will, and it's real.
Right, it is.
Being able to keep the lights on is real, so I don't take any of these conversations lightly. I won't say that I don't take it personal,
right.
But I'll say I don't take any kind of attacks personal.
Right.
I understand the context that it's being sent and the passion, et cetera, that's involved with it. Our time is short.
It is.
And we're going to do what we can.
Do me a favor, and I don't want to get grim, but let's just say there's no solution for this. What does this city look like? Like, what can it give to the residents? What kind of protections can it offer? Like, I want you to say, now I don't want you to say, but I want you to tell me what happens if nothing works and nothing gets fixed.
Yeah. My wife asked me this yesterday, that what if bankruptcy doesn't work, right? So there's a couple different ways to go with your answer. We could talk about insolvency, and we could talk about what does bankruptcy do. Let's talk about the process in bankruptcy, and then I'll talk about insolvency. Right now, we're negotiating the plan, right? If everybody agrees across the board, then there is no filing, right? We make the changes, we move forward. If folks don't agree, then there's that filing. And what the filing does is not just you declare bankruptcy and then
Everything's good, right?
not that everything's good, but you don't just declare and continue to try to figure it out on your own. No, the courts take over. Most likely assigning a mediator, and the terms will be reached.
Right.
There will be a final agreement. And most likely everybody involved will be pissed, but it's going to may not be the exact plan that we have up there right now,
Right.
but I don't see it being too far from it. So going through bankruptcy will land Chester at a point of, this is the new path, this is creditor 1 through 100, this is what you got to live with from here moving forward. So I don't want to say bankruptcy is the answer, but I'll say a solution will come out of bankruptcy.
Right.
The other aspect of it is insolvency. Bankruptcy is the process and going through the process. Insolvency is, I don't have any money, I can't pay my bills. That's the scary part. Going through bankruptcy is scary to creditors, but insolvency is what should be concerning to the residents and community at large. Insolvency is, end of the week, Chester can't make payroll. Is that cop coming back to work on Monday? Now, state police may have to come in and take over.
We already know how they feel.
Now, is that firehouse open? Are we relying on the next community over to respond to fire alarms?
Wow.
Now, trash. We can't pay the vendor. JP Mascaro, you may not like it, you may have challenges, but if they don't pick up the trash,
Right.
Who's picking it up?
Who's going to pick it up?
So insolvency is what we have to avoid at all costs. And right now, with the gap that we have in the 2023 budget, even going through the bankruptcy process, we need a solution to come out of that rather quickly to avoid insolvency. So it's not enough to just say we're going to sell the system. No, what's the full plan? What's the Coatesville thought that. Others have thought that is just sell your major assets. Eventually, you run out of things to sell. You still got to live. And we've already, laid the math out that that's not a lottery ticket. It's not just going to sit there and accumulate interest and be the nest egg to protect generations to come. It's not large enough.
This thing is heavy. Insolvency. No police, no firemen, no trash pickup. Things on fire, people doing things. This is what we have when we act like we don't care or we act like it doesn't matter. It has to matter. That's why voting is important. So why putting people in the right offices to protect your things are important. Can't protect everything. This is deep. I don't even know what to say, right? Because I asked what will happen if none of this stuff happens, if we don't sell the water authority, if we don't file insolvency. That's a deep word. That's the word of the day, insolvency. Look it up, figure it out. That's not what we want to happen. So we have to come together. We have to find solutions through our people. We have to believe in our people. And we have to hold people accountable for the things that they're supposed to do. Even if the system is sold, if the same people who can't count, we will be broke again through mismanagement and spending. Ms. Mayfield, she don't play no games, man. Like, I don't want to say they can't count. They just slipped up, man. Like, people make mistakes. Everybody does, but Ms. Mayfield ain't trying to hear the mistakes.
And the fact is, they inherited a broken system.
Yes.
But now
we have to fix it.
Moves to fix it.
So if we're trying to fix a system that you inherited that was broken, you should be happy. It's not your fault. But if you're putting up walls and you're fighting people, it makes it look like it's your fault, and it's really not. So I get it. Insolvency. Now, that's why I love Andrew Nelson. Shout out to Andrew. The state of being insolvent, inability to pay one's debts, the city is facing insolvency. That's real. I don't want nobody to, that's a big word, bro. That means no police, no firefighters, no trash pickup. Can you imagine a city like that?
It doesn't exist.
No electricity.
Oh, yeah, that's private.
That's private?
Yeah.
Okay.
You still pay your utility bill.
I'm just saying for the city. Lights, the lights will still work.
Oh, city street lights.
Yeah.
Eventually, who is it down here? It's not Bad Ed. Who do you have? First Energy?
Pico.
Pico is going to.
They're gonna cut this. They're gonna cut no lights. I can't imagine that. But they ran with it, and we're in agreement with the plan. This is what we need to do. We need to figure out who's gonna give us the most. I don't want to sell it to Aqua. Like, literally, I don't. I don't like Aqua at all. I mean, this is for my elderly and my young parents trying to raise their kids in the house. Getting a water bill for $350 every 2 months, that just doesn't work for me. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's roughly about $300 now every 3 months. You know what I mean? So it's $100 a month. It's water, right? Clean it and give it back to me. But I think when you sell to a private institution, their game plan is to make the investors money. Right? It's not to give you the best water, the best product. They're worrying about making the investors as much money. So everything that doesn't happen in Jackson, Mississippi with their water. You feel me? It was at Flint, Michigan, and their water. We don't want the same thing to happen here in Chester. Because again, we are a black community, right? So, but there are so many other people that drink our water too, so it doesn't really matter. It won't work out like that. But what we need to do is be aware, right? And make sure we make sure everybody knows. So give me the date of the meeting that you're having again. You said November 13th?
13th. I don't think so. I'm having a meeting November 9th with retirees.
All right, November 9th with retirees.
Yeah, September 13th was the MFRAC presentation.
Okay, all right.
Maybe that's where the 13th.
Yeah. That's probably where it came from. Best case CWA can buy itself. Yeah, we can't afford Aqua's rates. I lived out Eddystone, man. They killed me. They murdered me. It was a person in the house before that was still using the water. We moved in. We had to pay there. I was like, we wasn't living here. No, and it's still the same. No, it's not. It's a different tenant. Like, look at the lease. No, they wasn't trying to hear that. $555 we had to pay.
In general, I have to be in favor of a public option. At the same time, I don't want to speak negatively about privatization, because if we can't figure out, if the public side of it or public option isn't figured out, Chester's going to have to do what it has to do.
Damn. Well, what is Chester going to have to do? What can it do?
It's going
Bankruptcy?
to have to monetize that asset and go through the restructuring.
I got a headache. Again, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm not blaming anybody. He's not here blaming anybody. We're just having a conversation, talking about what the city can do, and make sure the residents understand how important. We can speak negatively. You can if you want to, right? But we're not doing that, right? We're trying to just hold people accountable. You can hold people accountable with constructive criticism. You don't have to tear them down. You don't have to hurt their feelings, right? If that's what they choose to do, let them do it. But we're talking about honestly getting everything together so it works for our children. Our children that are going to Chester High School, our children that are going to Stetson, our children that are going to Edgemont Academy, right? Our children are the most important, most vital asset that we have. You know what I'm saying? That's how life continues to go. We were somebody's children. He was somebody's children. They were somebody's children. So at the end of the day, like, whatever you're giving your children, you feel me? Make sure you're giving them good information. Make sure you're giving them good sound love, bro. Because without that, man, we don't have anything, man. Anything else? Because I got a headache now.
Just the last thing I'll say is just to any tension that there may be, I don't want to say, it's almost a distraction. The difficult conversations are with the creditors. Difficult, conversations and negotiating the terms that need to be reached. The bickering or disagreements that may happen between those with common interests isn't the focus. And I would ask all that to not really get caught up in that. That's going to distract us from what we really need to work on here.
Solution based, man. I'm not worried about who did it. I'm not worried about who's kicked the milk, who spilt the milk. I'm trying to figure out how we clean this up without the mold getting underneath the rug. Do we pull the rug up, right, and see how beautiful the floors are underneath? Or do we keep the rug there and allow the mold to build and then it turn into a big green spot and you welcome people in and that's what all they looking at the whole time they in your house is that big green spot in the middle of your floor. All because you was worried about who spilled the milk, not worried about a solution. It's CMPRadio.net. It's your boy, Uncle P. Any last words? Really? Seriously.
Thank you again to
No
a
problem.
gracious host.
No problem, bro. Anytime. Like I said, I've been told y'all, man, come through. Y'all come through every week. I think it's the feeling that all of this stuff is above our head, because it wasn't for so long, and then it just became like I said, oh, that's too deep, or it's too many people in there, right? I'm a backup, but I see everything that you're doing. I see how you're moving, right? Getting into that whole parking meter situation. We was like, nah, the parking, it don't make sense. Then you got in there, you figured out things were going wrong. So sometimes it's people's guilt that causes them to act that way. You feel me? And whatever happens, that's what happened. I'm not blaming anybody for anything, but when you do things the wrong way, the wrong things come back to you. You feel me? So, let's make sure we continue to do things the right way. Let's make sure we continue to support the people that we support. Let's push for unity. Let's push for understanding and accountability and transparency. All of these things are major factors in being a leader of our community, man. Yes, Mr. Doweary, please come often.
CMPRadio.net, man. It's your boy Uncle P, man. I want to remind you guys that right now, y'all can get look at this shirt. This is a nice shirt. We got these for sale right now. I think I might give out a few today. I might ride around and give out a few, right? Just because I can. That's what I can do. The CMPRadio.net. It's your boy Uncle P, man. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning for the morning meeting. Yes, it's back. Miss Info, K Hunt, and myself, man. We're going to talk about this stuff. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about homecoming. We're going to talk about the week after homecoming, right? The energy that is in the city right now is infectious. Literally, everybody's hype. Everybody's excited, right? It's like Chestober. That's what I said it's not October anymore. It's Chestober. Orange and black. Don't you wear orange and black for Halloween? Well, you don't wear it, but that's the color of Halloween, right? Orange and black.
Yeah, my last thing,
right?
I had the opportunity to visit your homecoming this year.
Right. Crazy, right?
Never seen anything like it.
Nothing like it.
The only thing that I've ever seen top it is G-Ho down at A&T in North Carolina. But that's college homecoming. It's supposed to be.
It's a high school.
For a high school, I've never seen anything like it. You guys do it big, and you should be Chester proud.
Absolutely.
That's
See pride, man. Shout out to the class of 1999. The class of 1997 is having their 25th class reunion. The 18th, right? The 18th is right. Let me make sure I'm checking everything correctly because I don't want to say the wrong thing. Yeah. The 18th of November. If you haven't gotten your tickets, get your tickets, man. Come through, party with us, man. Let's have fun. But the class of 99 started homecoming. I want to give a huge shout out to Sam and Mid, man, and everybody that has continued to make it a great situation. Next year is just going to be awesome. Let's keep the violence at home, right? You could talk about your problems. You could talk about your issues. Let's talk about things before we go left, right? That's simple, right? You don't end up in jail and he don't end up dead if we have a conversation. It's CMPRadio.net, man. Peace.
Hey,